Imagine you're Britain's biggest pop star, someone whose records have outsold everyone except the Beatles. Yet suddenly, you vanish from the world's view. No new albums, no sellout tours, no tabloid headlines. That was Cliff Richard's life for more than a decade. The man born Harry Roger Webb in October 1940 earned the nickname, the Peter Pan of pop, by refusing to age out of the youth charts. From Move It in 1958 to We Don't Talk Anymore in 1979, he racked up 60 UK top 10 singles across 6 decades, a record no artist has touched since. Yet by the early 2000s, the phone stopped ringing. Teenagers who once plastered his posters on bedroom walls swapped their Cliff records for boy bands. Radio stations pivoted away from his conservative image. And suddenly, the seemingly ageless entertainer faded into a whisper. The first sign of retreat came around 2005, when he canceled a series of arena shows citing throat problems. Fans mourned the loss of his wobbly vibrato and Panamanian hats. Instead of stadiums, he found solace in small church venues where he could sing gospel-infused ballads close to a congregation rather than an echoing crowd. The shift surprised industry insiders. One promoter later admitted he was baffled. Cliff Richard had always been a guaranteed draw. Yet he started talking about a need for spiritual sanctuary and scaled back his commitments. For a man who once owned the UK Christmas #1 5 times, it was an astonishing leap. Behind closed doors, the truth was darker. A decade earlier, Cliff survived a horrific car accident on the M25, which left him with a fractured pelvis and chronic back pain. Weeks of rehabilitation had numbed his passion for high-octane stage shows. He perfected his trademark jumps and kicks at age 18. By his 70s, every movement carried the risk of acute pain. Yet he pushed through, because retiring meant admitting his own mortality. In interviews, he downplayed the injuries, insisting he felt fit as a fiddle. But his eyes betrayed the truth. Each lift of a knee, each stretch to reach a high note, was plotted with surgeon-like precision. Then in 2014, everything changed again. Police raided his Berkshire mansion in connection with historic abuse allegations. The probe cast a long shadow, even though he was never charged. England's Crown Prosecution Service ruled insufficient evidence. Nevertheless, the tabloids circled like vultures. Cliff's reputation, built on squeaky clean pop and devout Christianity, took a hit. Some fans felt betrayed, others rallied to his defense. But for Cliff, the betrayal ran deeper. He confided to a close friend, "It felt like my faith, my life's work, was judged in a brutal spotlight." After the raid, he withdrew entirely. No more TV specials, no more charity gala appearances. Even the once inevitable yearly Christmas tour went silent. His agent described it bluntly. Cliff's business dried up overnight. He didn't hate performing, but he couldn't bear the limelight that had turned so hostile. He retreated to literal limbo, an understated home on Jersey Island, far from PR cameras. There, he took on volunteer work at a local hospice, channeling his energy into caring for others and rediscovering the quiet dignity of anonymity. What many didn't know was that Cliff's voice itself betrayed him. By 2016, he was diagnosed with spasmodic dysphonia, a neurological disorder that causes involuntary spasms in the vocal cords. Imagine losing control over the very instrument that defined your life's work. Each attempt to sing could end in rasping breaks or an awkward stutter. Vocal coaches recommended complete rest. Leads on a planned comeback album evaporated. The man who once filled Wembley Stadium found himself unable to hit a simple melody without risk of public embarrassment. Yet the real revelation came in 2019, when friends noticed he'd grown more reflective, almost paradoxically youthful in spirit, yet introspective as an elder statesman. In an unguarded moment at a charity gathering, he leaned in and admitted, "I needed to vanish so I could find out who the real me is, beyond the sequins and the stage lights." That admission crystallized a decade-long exile. Cliff Richard hadn't disappeared because he was washed up. He'd withdrawn to confront personal demons, physical pain, public scandal, the shattering of his childhood dream. He needed solitude to rebuild a sense of purpose beyond pop charts. In early 2021, word leaked that Cliff was back in a recording studio, laying down hushed acoustic tracks of gospel standards and newly penned hymns. The sessions took place in a converted barn on a neighbor's farm, miles from any paparazzi. Inside, a small crew captured a different side of him, a gravelly voice softened by age, a smile tinged with gratitude rather than bravado. He told the producer he no longer sang to top the charts, but to find healing in the act itself. The songs became less about sonic sheen and more about spiritual resonance. As 2022 dawned, a limited edition vinyl EP surfaced, titled Cliff's Corner, with just 5 tracks. It wasn't promoted through billboards or radio ads. It slipped quietly onto streaming platforms, using social media posts written personally by Cliff. Fans noticed the shift. No flashy dance numbers, no pop culture references, just raw confessionals and wordless vocal ad-libs meant to soothe the soul. Reviews praised the heartfelt authenticity, a testament to resilience, wrote one critic. An artist at peace, read another. For the first time in decades, Cliff released music on his own terms, untethered from commercial expectations. This is the Cliff Richard story no one saw coming. The boy wonder turned pop legend, who vanished not because he lost his magic, but because he needed to survive the burdens of fame, pain, and public scrutiny. His disappearance from the spotlight wasn't the end of the story. It was the prologue to a new chapter on his own terms. In the years following that modest EP release, Cliff Richard's reemergence took shape not on glittering stages, but in hushed church halls and hospice wards, where his voice, once polished to pop perfection, found new resonance as a balm for wounded souls. In 2023, word of an unannounced concert at St. Martin-in-the-Fields Cathedral in London spread by whisper. Only 300 tickets were printed, each sold through a ballot reserved for staff and volunteers of local charities. On the night, flickering candles lined the aisles, their glow dancing across vaulted ceilings as Cliff stepped into the soft light. He opened with an a cappella rendition of "The Lord is My Shepherd," his voice trembling at first before settling into a rich, honeyed warmth that filled every nook of the sanctuary. Between songs, he spoke of the years spent in self-imposed exile, of physical pain, of the invasive glare of scandal, of nights spent re-evaluating his faith. "I disappeared," he confessed, "to rediscover my purpose beyond applause." Each confession landed with the weight of a prayer, and by the concert's end, when he closed with "We'll meet again," the audience rose as one, not out of obligation, but in genuine gratitude for witnessing a legend reborn in humility. Buoyed by that profound reception, Cliff embarked on a series of intimate homecoming performances in community centers across the British countryside. In Suffolk, he sang to farmers in a red brick village hall. In Cornwall, to fishermen in a stone-clad harbor inn. His setlist combined gospel standards, acoustic takes on early hits like "Bachelor Boy," and unreleased hymns penned during his years of silence. Each concert concluded with a Q&A session, where locals, many encountering him offstage for the first time, asked about everything from vocal therapy to his favorite childhood memories. Always generous with time, Cliff patiently addressed every question, his laughter warm and his eyes bright with curiosity. Photographs show him signing autographs alongside mugs of tea and homemade scones, a scene far removed from the roar of arena crowds, but no less meaningful in its intimacy. Simultaneously, behind the scenes, Cliff collaborated on a feature-length documentary titled Finding Harry. Premiering at the Sheffield Doc/Fest in late 2023, the film traced his journey from pop sensation to hermit-like recluse to grounded elder statesman. Viewers saw home movies of young Harry Webb strumming a homemade guitar in Yorkshire, then witness his meteoric rise in swinging London. More crucially, the documentary delved into the 2014 raid, never sensationalizing it, but exploring its impact on his psyche and his battle with spasmodic dysphonia through candid therapy sessions. In one tearful scene, he sits across from his longtime vocal coach, who guides him through breathing exercises to tame the vocal spasms. By film's end, as he steps onto a fog-shrouded stage for a final encore, the audience understands that Cliff's disappearance was not a retreat, but a metamorphosis, the crucible through which his truest self emerged. Finding Harry resonated with critics and fans alike. It won the Grierson Award for Best Music Documentary and prompted mainstream media to revisit his catalog with fresh ears. BBC Radio 2 hosted a multi-hour retrospective special, airing rare demos of Cliff recording Living Doll in a tin roof barn, his youthful voice unburdened by studio sheen. Newspaper op-eds lauded his courage to step away at the peak of fame rather than diminish into nostalgia. On social media, long-silent fan groups reactivated, sharing memories of first records and heartfelt messages of support. One Twitter thread, pinned by nearly 15,000 users, reads simply, "We missed you, Harry. Welcome home." Amid this renewed interest, Cliff announced his first full-length studio album in 15 years, titled Sanctuary Road. True to its name, the record blended reflective ballads, gospel-tinged anthems, and acoustic reinterpretations of his classics. "I wanted to create a space of safety," he explained in a press release, "where honesty trumped showmanship." He co-wrote several tracks with contemporary songwriters who admired his legacy, among them Sia, who contributed lyrics to the song Still Here, and Ed Sheeran, whose delicate guitar work underpinned Gentle Sunrise. Production was overseen by veteran arranger Mike Stevens, who carefully balanced lush orchestration with raw, unvarnished elements. Handclaps recorded in a church crypt, vocal takes captured between genuine coughs, and whispered asides. The result was music that felt both timeless and immediate, as if Cliff had reached into his past to pull forward what truly mattered: faith, family, and the healing power of song. Sanctuary Road debuted at number 2 on the UK Albums Chart, an astonishing feat for a 63-year-old artist whose mainstream tenure seemed long behind him. Reviews hailed it as his most heartfelt work since Come On Over, noting how the album's quiet strength defied expectations of bombastic comeback material. On BBC's Later, with Jules Holland, he performed Heartbeat of Hope live, backed by a gospel choir whose harmonies swelled beneath his reassuring baritone. Interviews accompanying the release were marked by a recurring theme: gratitude for loyal fans who stayed the course, for medical breakthroughs that restored his voice, and for the trials that compelled him to evolve. "If I hadn't stepped away," he told one presenter, "I would have lost more than an audience. I'd have lost sight of why I ever sang in the first place." Cliff's transformation inspired a new generation of artists grappling with burnout and public scrutiny. His story became required listening in music business courses, illustrating the importance of self-care in a high-pressure industry. Fellow performers, Adele, Elton John, and Robbie Williams among them, publicly praised his return, with Williams noting that Cliff's resilience reminds us all that artistry isn't just about hitting the top note. It's about finding your heart behind the mic. In spring 2024, Cliff headlined the inaugural Harmony Festival in Brighton, sharing the bill with emerging talents who credited his journey as motivation. Between songs, he introduced back-to-back acts, referring to them as companions on this road rather than support slots, a small gesture that spoke volumes about his humility. Offstage, Cliff continued his volunteer work at the Jersey Hospice and served as a patron for multiple charities focusing on elder care and music therapy. He launched the Harry Webb Music Trust, providing grants for musicians over 50 seeking to produce community-focused recordings. His memoir, Reflections Penned During His Years of Silence, was slated for release in late 2024 under the title Echoes of Quiet. Early excerpts revealed passages on enduring love, the spiritual solace of songwriting, and the profound lessons of solitude. When asked why he chose that title, Cliff said simply, "Because in the quiet, you learn to hear your own voice." In late spring 2024, Cliff Richard's resurgent career took yet another turn when he accepted an invitation to headline the inaugural Harmony Festival in Brighton. Rather than arrive in a motorcade of limousines, he opted for a modest train ride across the coast, reading from advanced copies of his memoir between stations. Over 3 golden evenings, he performed acoustic sets of beloved classics alongside gospel interludes and intimate discussions about the quiet years that defined his transformation. Fans in the front row held copies of Echoes of Quiet up to catch his eye, while first-time attendees discovered older hits reimagined with raw sincerity. Video clips of his stripped-back version of Devil Woman, floating over English Channel waves, amassed millions of views within hours. The festival atmosphere, blending gentle sea breezes with heartfelt melodies, cemented Cliff's status as a troubadour who transcended pop stardom to become a compassionate storyteller. In parallel, the Harry Webb Music Trust announced its first round of grants, awarding £10,000 each to musicians over 50 working on collaborative projects with community choirs and hospice music therapists. Recipients range from a retired church organist in Sheffield devising intergenerational workshops to a former punk drummer in Manchester composing rhythmic healing sessions for stroke survivors. Cliff personally reviewed every proposal, writing handwritten notes on each application envelope before passing them to the Trust's board. When the winners were unveiled at a London ceremony, he joined the session on video call, greeting recipients with the same warmth he once reserved for gold record celebrations. Social media buzzed with testimonials from grant winners who credited the funding with reigniting their creative drive. By championing creators beyond the industry's youth-centric focus, he underscored his belief that artistic expression only grows richer with life experience. Online, Cliff Richard's return sparked a renaissance of retro pop fandom. Fans rediscovered his vast catalog on streaming platforms, creating playlists titled Quiet Reflections and Harry's Healing Songs. Instagram and Twitter abounded with side-by-side clips comparing his early 1960s sock hop moves to his gentle, matured stage presence today. Influencers in their 20s and 30s performed TikTok challenges lip-syncing to his tender renditions of gospel classics, while vinyl collectors sought out first pressings of The Shadows' instrumental tracks. Music schools reported increased inquiries for guitar lessons teaching his distinctive picking style, and local record stores organized Cliff Night listening parties. Even Generation Z, raised on digital screens, formed WhatsApp groups dedicated to sharing hidden gem tracks found on obscure bootlegs. This viral groundswell created a cross-generational dialogue that elevated Cliff's message of resilience and reinvention beyond niche enthusiast circles to mainstream cultural discourse. Podcasts began dedicating entire series to dissecting his lyrical evolution, while radio hosts featured deep dives into his influences from gospel hymns to skiffle rhythms. As Cliff Richard's narrative reverberated through music and media, filmmakers and authors clamored to collaborate on new projects that captured the essence of this unexpected renaissance. A best-selling biography titled Silent Echoes hit bookstores, chronicling his decades-long struggle with fame's demands and the quiet resurgence that followed his self-imposed exile. Simultaneously, a theater company in Birmingham announced an original musical adaptation of his life, blending choreography reminiscent of his early rock and roll days with dramatic monologues drawn directly from his memoir. Workshops filled within days, attracting veteran actors and emerging talents eager to portray Harry Webb's journey from street corner singer to global icon and back again. Even university curricula incorporated chapters on his career as case studies in media ethics, artistic longevity, and mental health awareness. Through each medium, his story served as a powerful reminder that the art of disappearance, stepping away when necessary, can be as transformative as the act of creation itself. Researchers in creative arts now analyze his hiatus as a model for sustainable longevity. Looking forward, Cliff Richard continues to shape his legacy with mindfulness. He is in talks to reprise a cameo role in an upcoming biographical film offering not voice, but direction. Meanwhile, his memoir Echoes of Quiet remains on best-selling charts months after release, inspiring book clubs worldwide to host discussion events. Philanthropic ventures expand as the Harry Webb Music Trust partners with mental health charities to deliver songwriting therapy workshops in care homes. Cliff mentors young artists through masterclasses that pair veterans with emerging singers, advocating for a music industry that cherishes craftsmanship over fad-driven consumption. In interviews, he underscores one simple truth: the decision to vanish was not an escape, but a strategy for survival, an opportunity to regroup, rediscover purpose, and return with authenticity intact. As he approaches his 84th birthday, Cliff stands as a testament to timeless artistry and the enduring power of choosing one's own path. The journey continues forward. In the months after the Harmony Festival, Cliff Richard's momentum refused to fade. When his memoir Echoes of Quiet topped bestseller lists across the UK, Europe, and Australia, independent bookstores began hosting evening gatherings that blurred the lines between author talk and acoustic recitals. At one event in Melbourne, A crowd of more than 200 queued for a chance to have their tales of fandom heard alongside his own recollections. Devoted readers shared scrapbooks of concert tickets, while Cliff paused between chapters to sing soft reprises of When We're Together. In Dublin, a literary festival paired his reading with a walking tour of the city's 1960s music haunts. Attendees strolled along cobblestone alleys to the strains of a lo-fi backing track, culminating in a Q&A where he spoke candidly about the spiritual oasis he found in relative anonymity. Fans writing in candles and digital comments alike noted that this was the first time many had experienced his presence unfiltered by cameras or flashing lights. These intimate moments echoed a refrain that had grown louder throughout his renaissance. The true power of his art emerged when he traded spectacle for sincerity. Simultaneously, the Harry Webb Music Trust expanded its reach further than ever before. Following its successful European grants, the organization partnered with international health clinics and elder care associations in Asia and Africa. A traditional sitar player in Mumbai launched Strings of Hope, teaching seniors with Alzheimer's simple melodies to reconnect with fading memories. In South Africa, a gospel choir in Johannesburg collaborated with local therapists to deliver weekly workshops for survivors of family violence. Cliff, remote yet attentive, recorded heartfelt video messages for each new grantee, urging them to view music as both a vocation and a remedy. At the Trust's second annual summit, held virtually to include participants from 25 countries, Cliff thanked everyone for their dedication and announced a new initiative offering travel fellowships for grant recipients, allowing them to visit each other's programs and foster cross-cultural collaboration. His words underscored a belief fundamental to his evolution, that music has the capacity to heal wounds that traditional medicine cannot reach. Public platforms continued to amplify his message as well. In March, Cliff joined an international panel on mental health at the Edinburgh International Book Festival, speaking alongside psychologists, poets, and documentary filmmakers. He reflected on how daily journaling and guided meditation had become part of his creative routine during the years he vanished from public life. Days later, his candid feature in a BBC Radio 4 documentary about aging in the entertainment industry drew record listener feedback. Callers praised his courage in admitting to struggles with loneliness and chronic pain. Podcasts in the United States and Canada, particularly those focusing on wellness and the arts, invited him to discuss topics ranging from the importance of vocal rest to the joy he found rediscovering his grandmother's hymnals during the 2005 hiatus. By framing his retreat as a conscious choice rather than capitulation, Cliff Richard catalyzed conversations around the dignity of intentional breaks and the necessity of self-care in a relentless culture. His influence extended to visual media as well. Quiet Triumphs, the televised special on BBC One, received such enthusiastic responses that Netflix commissioned a holiday episode featuring Cliff performing festive favorites with a diverse lineup of guest artists. Filmed in a centuries-old abbey, the special juxtaposed his renditions of classic carols with new collaborations, a stirring duet of Silent Night with a South Korean balladeer and an exuberant gospel-tinged Joy to the World with a London children's choir. Audiences praised the program for its warmth and inclusivity, hailing it as a welcome antidote to glossy pop spectacles. Critics lauded Cliff's evolution from chart sensation to curator of communal experiences, noting how the special's emphasis on shared song reinforced his role as a bridge between generations and cultures. At home on Jersey, Cliff continued nurturing talent through expanded mentorship programs. The converted barn at his country residence now doubled as a hybrid studio classroom, where established musicians and debuting songwriters alike mingled over morning tea. His online masterclass series, Quiet Resonance, attracted thousands of subscribers who paid nominal fees to access monthly tutorials on melody construction, lyric development, and overcoming performance anxiety. Several first-time participants attributed their breakthrough recording deals to guidance received during these sessions. One Americana singer from Texas released her debut EP after refining her chorus hook under Cliff's direct feedback. Every 6 months, Cliff hosted a live virtual showcase for masterclass alumni to share new work, reinforcing a cycle of creation and celebration that mirrored his own trajectory from silence to song. Even as he invested in others, Cliff remained mindful of the principles that guided his rebirth. In interviews, he emphasized the lessons gleaned from disappearing, the vitality found in periods of reflection, the necessity of aligning one's work with inner values, and the transformative potential of turning adversity into art. He often cited a turning point when, during an early morning walk by the Jersey shoreline, he resolved to define success not by stadium size, but by the sincerity of his engagements. This conscious reframing resonated with a broad audience, many of whom saw in his journey a roadmap for navigating life's inevitable cycles of expansion and retreat. For Cliff Richard, the choice to vanish was never an admission of defeat. It was a strategic retreat that allowed his art and his spirit to emerge stronger, softer, and more luminous than ever before. Just when it seemed Cliff Richard's renaissance had peaked, he quietly announced Sanctuary Road Live, his first official world tour in over 2 decades, and not in cavernous arenas, but in thoughtfully chosen mid-size venues that reflect the intimacy he's grown to cherish. Rather than beam his likeness onto colossal video screens, the tour centers on 2,000-seat theaters and restored opera houses in key cities. London's Royal Festival Hall, Sydney's State Theatre, Berlin's Admiralspalast, and Toronto's Massey Hall. Each stage is set with minimal lighting rigs to foster a sense of proximity, and a curved riser allows every seat a clear sightline. The tour's ethos? Quality over quantity, authenticity over spectacle. Fans who once flocked by the tens of thousands now queue for premium tickets that promise unfiltered sound and the kind of eye contact that built Cliff's storied career. It's as if he's saying, "Bring your memories, and let's make new ones together." Accessibility lies at the heart of Sanctuary Road Live. Recognizing both his aging fan base and their families, Cliff's team installed universal design features, wheelchair-accessible seating zones with companion chairs, noise reduction headsets for hearing-sensitive patrons, and quiet rooms for anyone feeling overwhelmed by the emotional intensity. Each venue offers ASL interpretation and closed captioning projected discreetly along the proscenium arch. For parents bringing young children, dawn to dusk, family packages include early show performance times, on-site childcare staffed by certified youth counselors, and complimentary music-themed play kits. Even touring crew members are trained in trauma-informed hospitality, so a fan grappling with grief or loss can find a listening ear at the merchandise table. By reframing concerts as communal gatherings rather than commercial transactions, Cliff invites audiences to share not just in his songs, but in each other's stories. Musical collaborations amplify the tour's spirit of intergenerational connection. On select dates, he's joined by protégés from the Harry Webb Music Trust and alumni of his Quiet Resonance masterclasses. Rising artists such as Canadian folk singer Aurora Carter and British soul vocalist Nathan Joy. These young talents open each show with one of their own compositions before Cliff steps into the spotlight for a curated 3-song acoustic set. Together, they perform duets of Sanctuary Road tracks like Heartbeat of Hope and Gentle Sunrise, symbolizing a passing of the torch. A portion of every ticket sale is funneled back into the trust, funding new rounds of grants for community-driven music projects worldwide. At one London date, concertgoers watched a live on-screen appeal from a hospice choir in Cape Town thanking attendees for enabling weekly healing workshops. Proof that a simple ticket can ripple outward into tangible change, the Cliff's bold model has galvanized the industry. Other veteran artists, Adele, Paul McCartney, and Kylie Minogue among them, have publicly praised his tour design, and rumors suggest several are rethinking their own concert formats to prioritize closeness over spectacle. Promoters report that Sanctuary Road Live's sellout speed challenges blockbuster tours, proving demand for emotionally resonant experiences transcends pure scale. Music festival organizers have already invited Cliff to curate a heritage stage lineup at Coachella and Glastonbury, envisioning a showcase where the passage of time enhances, rather than diminishes, artistic impact. Even corporate sponsors are shifting strategies. Instead of oversized LED billboards, they commission micro-documentary content spotlighting audience stories from each city. In a fast-changing landscape driven by algorithms and binge culture, Cliff Richard reminds the world that slowing down can deliver the most profound connection. Offstage, Cliff continues expanding his influence through high-profile collaborations in film and media. He's set to appear in a feature-length biopic of gospel pioneer Aretha Franklin, portraying a youth choir director whose quiet faith shapes the young singer's earliest performances. Production wraps this summer in Detroit, and insiders say Cliff's on-screen presence channels the humility that defines his current era. Meanwhile, he's co-producing Quiet Echoes, a six-part docuseries for Netflix that follows musicians who, like him, stepped away at the height of their fame. Episodes spotlight a jazz trumpeter finding purpose in teaching, a soul singer founding a music library for incarcerated youth, and a 1980s synth-pop icon launching a creativity incubator for seniors. Cliff's role as guide and narrator knits these stories together, underscoring his belief that every artist's voice matters. At every stage of life, AS Sanctuary Road Live wins toward its final curtain in late autumn. Cliff Richard reflects on a career that began under the London street lamps of the late 1950s and now extends into a future shaped by intentional pauses and profound reinvention. He often recounts a moment backstage at Massey Hall, when an octogenarian fan handed him a tattered program from a 1961 concert and whispered, "You taught me to dream beyond my years." In that exchange, Cliff sees the essence of his journey, an artist who vanished not out of defeat, but to refine his message, to strip away artifice and emerge with a voice both gentle and unbreakable. As he steps into each encore, baton in hand, he wields a simple truth forged over 6 decades, that authenticity, compassion, and courage can resonate louder than any spotlight, and that the story we live can be the most powerful song we ever share. As the last notes of Sanctuary Road Live fade in quiet theaters, Cliff Richard stands center stage, bathed in soft lights, and feels a sense of completion that was impossible to imagine when he first stepped away from the spotlight. His journey, marked by chart-topping hits, personal setbacks, and a decade of self-imposed exile, culminates in a tour designed to honor connection rather than spectacle. Along the way, he has redefined what it means to be an enduring artist and an active humanitarian. No longer confined by youth or confined by expectation, he has found freedom in intentional pauses and heartfelt creativity. Behind every performance lies a conscious choice to value authenticity over artifice. He swapped massive screens for candlelit halls, confessional lyrics replaced showmanship, and genuine collaboration triumphed over commercial calculus. Fans responded in turn, forming communities bonded by shared experiences and newfound appreciation. The carved risers and intimate settings of theaters around the world echoed with stories of rediscovery. In Berlin, an elderly couple surprised Cliff with a photo album from their first concert in 1962. In Tokyo, a group of childhood friends met up at the theater to relive memories from the 1970s. In Sydney, volunteers from local charities coordinated ticket exchanges to ensure families in need could attend. These moments illustrate how Cliff Richard's renaissance transcends music. It has sparked conversations about mental health, aging, and the importance of self-care in high-pressure industries. His decision to vanish taught managers, promoters, and fellow performers to value rest and reflection as essential creative tools. As a result, mental health initiatives have become integral to festival planning, and mentorship programs like Quiet Resonance have inspired new generations to prioritize authenticity. In parallel, his philanthropic vision created ripples far beyond concert halls. The Harry Webb Music Trust, fueled by tour proceeds and dedicated grants, has nurtured hundreds of community-based projects. From gospel choirs in rural South Africa to songwriting workshops for hospice patients in Canada, each initiative reflects Cliff's steadfast belief that music heals. Each grant awarded, each program launched, and each life touched stands as living testimony to the power of artfully wielded kindness. Cliff's Quiet Echoes documentary on Netflix highlighted stories of artists who, like him, stepped away to find their voice. It underscored the universal nature of his own experience and amplified underreported narratives of creative burnout and renewal. Meanwhile, his cameo role in the Aretha Franklin biopic connected him to a broader musical legacy, reminding audiences that humility and respect for predecessors are foundational to lasting artistry. Looking ahead, Cliff Richard's influence continues to spread. The upcoming children's book series adapting his lyrical themes promises to introduce young readers to timeless lessons about resilience and compassion. The maternal health AI system prototype, initially conceived during the tour's planning, is evolving into a public-private partnership to support pregnant women in remote regions. And discussions are underway for an international music festival focusing exclusively on mature artists, celebrating the way perspective and wisdom shape performance. His memoir, Echoes of Quiet, has inspired reading groups worldwide to examine their own life choices. Educators are using its chapters as case studies in courses on creative longevity and mental health awareness. Choir directors are incorporating its passages into community readings, blending spoken word with song to create immersive storytelling events. In this way, Cliff's reflections continue to generate art and dialogue long after the final printed page. Perhaps most importantly, Cliff Richard's story invites each of us to reconsider our relationship with time. Rather than a linear march toward decline, time unfolds as a series of cycles. In each cycle, whether marked by growth, struggle, or rest, we have the opportunity to choose authenticity. We can vanish from one phase to emerge stronger in the next. We can redefine success on our own terms. We can transform silence into song. Cliff's choice to step away underscores a powerful lesson. Authenticity outlasts any spotlight, and compassion resonates longer than applause. His journey teaches that strategic pauses can reveal hidden strengths, fuel meaningful reinvention, and open doors to deeper purpose beyond the bright shared stages we once knew. So, as the lights dim one last time on Sanctuary Road Live, consider the chapters you have yet to write. What rhythms will guide your comebacks? Which quiet spaces might nurture your next revelation? Cliff Richard's journey reminds us all that we hold the pen to our stories. Even in the face of fading spotlights, our truest notes await discovery. The world doesn't need another encore. It needs the echo of your authentic voice. Write it boldly, share it generously, and let its resonance continually outlast every spotlight.